Okay, welcome back, and we're going to do storyboarding part 2. We're going to go into Xcode and look at what we had accomplished in our previous session. Again, we automated, and I want to focus on the automation. We started with a main view. We tied the segues in by dragging and dropping with control and clicking your mouse. We added a new view, which is attached to that. We added a web view, and again we connected those dragging and dropping because a web view is an outlet, and an outlet is anything in which information is displayed or inputted. An outlet is required, while an action is something that the user has to press a button or slide or do something like that, any kind of action. And you can do both of those programmatically. Now these buttons here and here, while we added them, those we created segues with them, and they're not created with an action. They're a special button, a special instance of that button, that in which a segue is created in the button. And if we look at the button here, we don't have any touch up or touch inside. We have an action for a segue. It's a specific one. Now, most of your applications that you're going to be doing, you're going to want to have the ability to create buttons for actions other than segues. We're going to add 2 new files here, or I should say a class, which is a class is made up of your .h, which is your declaration, and your .m, which is your implementation. And they're going to be view controller subclass. We're going to use a view controller, not a table view, nothing fancy. I'm going to call this data view. Next. Create it. Yes, we want to. Thank you. And it will then finish off on that. And there they are. And we will drag them into here. And our main storyboard, we go back to that. Now, the toolbox looks a little bit different here. There's a little button here where you can list them or you can arrange them in this way. Here is our view controller. We'll create that, and now we'll attach our class to it, which is right there. Now last time it didn't happen, but data view controller is now attached to it. We're going to save that, and we're going to put a button in here. Drag the button in. Whoops. Let's try that again. Come on. Alright, let's move it over. Sometimes if you're not in the right scope of this thing, it won't take the button. Here we go. Okay. Come on now. Oh, I know why. Pardon me. I'm not in the view controller. These are sometimes finicky little buggers. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to also come over here and put in a text box as well. Alright. We're going to change the name of this button here. You can highlight them here if you want to, and that'll just go from the different items. It's usually easier to do that. And then we'll come over here and select the 4th button, the 4th property here. We'll change this to data, which is the name of our button. We can program that to be whatever we choose. Okay, so now at this point, we want to link this button to an action. We want to create an action. And normally, you would go about doing this by creating the specific outlet, which is an action. You would write that code. We're going to do this programmatically. I'm going to just go to this, at the top here, this 3rd button to open up the data view controller here. If you don't see that, if for some reason you don't, sorry, there is a button, if I can find it here, data view controller H, data view controller M, yeah, see here? It's either automatic or manual. It should be automatic. Manual is manually picking the file. It should be on automatic. Alright, so we're going to take this button highlight it. We're going to control click, pardon me, drag, and right below the interface line, we're going to then release, and you get this, and we saw this before. We created an outlet. We want an action. And we can do that. Here's our action. And now, depending upon what the event will be, we can select our event. The default is touch up inside, which is what we want. Which is what we want. We're going to call this, pardon me, BTN, which is button, and CSNT constant, we'll call it. I'm sorry, CNST constant. You have the arguments, either none, sender, sender, and event, and the type as well. You can leave it as ID. ID is typically the event that we use. And now take a look here. We've just created that action, and not only did we create the action for the button, we created the code for it right down here. Pretty neat, I think it is. We're going to drop this down just a little bit, drag it a little bit, and drop it. Okay. Okay. And same thing here, but here we need an outlet. Alright, we're going to control and drag this, insert the outlet, and we're going to call this text data, right? And connect that. Before I forget, if we click on this, when you're doing an action, you don't need to connect it. It's already connected. On the outlet, that we need to connect, although it's here, but we're going to connect it anyway, just to be on the safe side. So, oops, wrong one. Sorry. Undo that. To the outlet. There we go. Okay. So we're now going to just go over to our main storyboard here. And oops, wrong one, I'm sorry. Take the button, which is for view A, and we're going to command copy it and command paste it with V, and select it, move it up, move it over a little bit, and then we're going to come over here and name that view B. And now we're going to segue to our storyboard, connecting this to the new view. Okay. Okay, so we control, click it to the new view, and we use modal, not push, because push requires a navigational controller. Alright, we're almost there. Last thing we need to do, we're going to go back to our data view controller, and we're going to come into the actual implementation file, and we created again the button and the outlet, and what we need to do now is to write the code here. You can do it right from here. Self.txt data equals I don't know, 3.14195, which is, oh, and we forgot the semicolon to close it. And I'm sorry, we've got to select the text property on that one as well. And then we've got to also put the text in quotes, because it is in fact text. And that should do it. Okay, we're going to run this. Takes a while on the first time in the new version of Xcode. Here comes our simulator. It'll probably ask me for my password. Okay. Slowing it up. Come on. And as I said, it always does on the new version. I put my password in. Okay. So, and in our old one, view A, of course, went to the web view. And view B now is connected to our new view, our data button, and our text field. And when we click on it, lo and behold, we now have told on the tap on inside method, the on click, to put this value into the box. And that's really the only thing we wrote. Everything else we dragged, we dropped, it was really neat because we didn't have to write a lot of code. So again, we'll run it one more time just to show you. It'll run faster now since it's already loaded. And our simulator will come up. I don't really know why the simulator takes so long, but I think it has something to do with the newer version of iOS 7. But I'm not really sure. So back to view B and the data, and that was it. So everything we created in this, whatever control it was here, we dragged it into our storyboard, and then we dragged to create either an action or an object. So whether it was, let's go back to our storyboard to close this out. Yeah, whether it was the button for the data. I'm just going to come over here to show you right over here. Keep your eye on this side. Whether it was a touch-up inside action for the button or whether it was an outlet for the text box, we were able to create it by dragging, clicking and dragging and dropping that. In previous apps, you had to declare, and you still do if you want to put data into this, input data into this, the UI text field. And then from the UI text field, when you saw me initially run this app, and I clicked on it, it opened up the keyboard. I couldn't do anything, so it aired out. But if you wanted to, you could do the same thing and drag and drop and create the outlet without having to type the code in, but create a UI text field and then allow the user to enter the data into it. With any of these controls, you can do the same thing with it. A button, a slider, whatever it might be. When we come back in the next one, we're going to put in a table view and do the same thing with a table view and show you some automation there. So that'll be Storyboard Part 3.